Welcome! Thank you for joining me. Grayboardgamer here with a playthrough of one of my most recent Kickstarter arrivals, a game of survival at sea, and it is 21 days. Let's get this box open and get it set up. 17 October 1903. The Esperanza ends up in a terrible storm and loses its battle against the elements. 163 souls perish at sea, but a small group survives this disaster and washes ashore on the Isle Juan Ansiedad. For weeks they wait, hoping for a miracle, for a rescue party that never comes. Food is in short supply, and the realization sets in that if they want to survive, let alone make it home again, they will have to take action. They put together a raft as best they can from the pieces of the Esperanza which washed ashore. 4 survivors, with only their wits about them, very small rations, and a healthy dose of luck, will brave the dangers of the Pacific in search of salvation. They record their struggle for survival in the logbook you now hold in your hands, a struggle that lasted for 21 days. Here we have our game board, and almost everything is going to take place here on this game board, with a few exceptions. We'll have other boards for some of the expansions I'm going to use in this playthrough. But the first thing we're going to do is, you can kind of see the shadow of where the raft goes right there. We're going to put the raft together with these 6 planks that make it up. Our raft is all put together. Our survivors lashed together what they could find from the shipwreck, and this is a raft they're going to attempt to survive on for the next 21 days. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to pick our 4 survivors that are making this journey, and you see these 4 squares up here. That'll be the spaces where the survivor cards go. Normally we would select our survivors randomly. I mean, you can pick them, but I like to do them randomly, and you're going to take one from each of the 4 colors or 4 classes on the ship. With the exception of this first one, we're not going to use one of these green humans. We're actually going to use Scruffs, the dog. He's going to take the place of our green or C class, he's part of the crew, character. And he is going to go on this spot right here because he is going to take up this open square right here, which is closest to the fishing location, and that's set up in the rule book. And for Scruffs, he's going to have this die numbered 1 through 6, and then on 5 and 6 you see the paw mark. But he is going to start out with a strength of 4, which means he'll go right here in this spot on the raft. Scruffs also comes with this stack of tokens that we're going to shuffle and make a stack on his card. And this is how Scruffs performs actions in the game. He doesn't act like the regular human players. He doesn't choose what he does. He can only perform actions when able to do so, and if he rolls properly. And we'll explain that when it comes down to the time that Scruffs can actually attempt to perform an action. But I'm going to mix these up, give him one last cut. If I can straighten them out, there we go, one last cut in the middle. So this stack will now go face down as the draw pile here on Scruff's crew card. And now we'll select our 3 human survivors. First, coming from the first class cabins, we're going to have Maya Ayushi, a self-appointed Indian occult doctor with a very special gift. And her special skill is once a day, Maya may give herself or someone else 1 strength at the cost of 2 hope. And that all makes sense as we're doing the gameplay, but she's going to be our first survivor that's going to go along. But we're not going to put her on the board in any location yet, because we're going to roll the survivors' dice to see how strong they are at the beginning of this journey, and then we'll place them on the raft according to that. That way we can give ourselves our best chance of survival. Next, we have someone coming from our second class area. We'll give this a nice thorough shuffle. and then we will be joined by Herr Fenning. This traumatized clerk from Munster lives for one thing only: no more sharks around him, never again. So Herr Fenning gets one hope at the beginning of each day when the sharks are at distance 4 and 5. So he's going to join us on the raft. And our third and final human will come from our third class passengers. Give these a quick shuffle. And we're going to get the Kickstarter exclusive character, Paul McShears. This paperback writer has a remarkable survival skill. Is he really who he says he is? Paul can swap places with another survivor. This will cost him 3 hope. And what that means is he can swap places with them on the raft, which can be useful at times, but I rarely use that ability. But I have used it to my advantage, so we'll see if it comes into play during this playthrough. Here are the disaster cards that will occur when that symbol comes up, and this will cause very serious problems for us. We're going to give these a shuffle, and we'll place them in their designated spot on the board, which is right here. And that also doubles as a spot where we can try and generate hope, and that'll get explained later on. Next we have our jellyfish cards. There's 3 of those, and these will be used to navigate the waters if we fall off the raft, either voluntarily. Well, that wouldn't be falling off, that'd be jumping in. If we jump in the water to try and retrieve something, or if something has us fall off the raft into the water. So those cards will go right there. Here are the bottle cards, and this deck has useful items, food, hope, lots of things that are good for us. I think there's one in there that is useless, but nothing really harmful in there. So these bottle cards are things that we can attempt to get and use during the game. So they get mixed up and placed on their space here. This is the shark distance card. It's going to start here on the 5, and it's going to move each day, or if something causes it to move. And when it gets to distance 1, that means that the sharks will attack us that evening. But this goes under the board, on the side of the board over here. The shark card gets slid under the board until it is at the 5, which is where the game starts out at distance number 5. Here we have our 8 octopus tentacle tokens, and they will go on the board here where our large octopus off to the side of our raft is. As you can see, there are 8 numbered circles for the octopus. Each of these tokens will cover up one of those spots. So for example, here at number 1, it shows that the tentacle is still there. When that token is gone, it shows a little bloody stump that shows that that tentacle has been taken care of or destroyed by the survivors. But the octopus starts the game out with all 8 of them in place. All 8 of the octopus tentacles are now in place, and it is ready to wreak havoc and make things extremely difficult for us. These cardboard tokens, these round ones, are referred to as the swap location cards, and they are a location that you can go to perform particular actions. At the beginning of the game, we give these a shuffle, and then we're going to choose one right off the top. And the first one is a good one. It can help us generate hope, but it's probably going to go away in the beginning of the game. But there's a chance that it'll stay, and it goes down there on the circle spot there for the swap location. The remaining swap location tokens get put off to the side, then we'll be drawing from them when we need to during the game. The next thing we are going to do is we're going to create our logbook that's going to go in this place here. And we're going to start from the bottom and work our way up. So the last day is always the same. It's the 21st day. And These cards are not language dependent. It's all based on symbols. So we see what each of these symbols means throughout the game, and I'll explain that as we go. But this is day 21, so when this comes up, we'll perform these actions. And it's going to go on the right side of the logbook here as the last entry. Next, we're going to go into our third week, which all these cards are. And there's 3 cards that have this ship's wheel symbol on them, and those are the mandatory cards. And for the third week, we need to have 3 of these. I'm sorry, we need to have 2 of the 3 of these. So we're going to give them a quick shuffle. I'm going to look off to the side so I can't see which ones are up. We'll take the top 2, and they'll be part of our third week. And then now we already have 1, 2, 3 cards for our third week, so we need 4 more cards to be selected to make all 7 days of that third week. So I'll shuffle these also. Look off to the side so I can't see where they're going to end up, because these are going to be placed face up on there. And then we'll take the top 4 off. All the rest of them just get put off to the side. They're out of the game. So we have our 6 cards here and our 1 there that's always going to be the same. So we'll mix these 6 together that has those 2 mandatory cards in it, along with the 4 that we chose at random. And then we'll go on top of day 21, so that is our third week. Now we will grab the second week, and they have only 1 of these mandatory cards, so that one is going to be part of our second week. And then we're going to shuffle week 2 cards up, and this time we're going to draw 6 to add to that 1 to make 7. That'll be our 7 days of our second week that we're going to encounter in our logbook. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Put those off to the side. Take this one and add it in. Mix it up so we're not sure when it's going to come up. Although we can see what's going on because they are face up. So we know what's coming up for our next day, which we could try and prepare for. And finally, we grab our week 1 cards, and there are only 7 of these, so all 7 of them are going to get mixed up and placed on top of our logbook, like so. I'm just going to straighten these up. And then the first day is going to be placed right there. So our active day is on the left, and the next coming day is on the right. We'll roll to determine their beginning strength. Well, that's okay. So we got a 5 and a 2 for the yellow, a 3 and a 6 for the red, and a 1 and a 4 for the blue. And the way this works is one die is going to go on top of the other. You want to keep your larger die on the bottom because that's going to be your remaining strength if your top die gets depleted. So the yellow is going to go with a 2 on top of the 5, red 3 on the 6, and blue 1 on the 4. Now we're going to place our survivors on the raft. We have to choose which location on the raft they are. The safest locations are here in the middle because if any boards are lost, they come from the outer edges, and those will be the last areas to disappear, most likely. But these 2 middle areas also have the highest probability of being attacked by the shark, so it's a give and take. It's more dangerous on the outside, but the shark attack happens more often for the ones in the middle. Now we have Maya, and her special ability is to give herself or someone else 1 strength, so that could be useful. We might not want to put her on the outer edges, but she's also our weakest with only a 1 and a 4. Then we got Herr Fenning. He gets 1 hope at the beginning of each day when the sharks are at distance 4 and 5, also useful. He's our second strongest with a 2 and a 5. And then we got Paul McShears. He can swap places with the survivor. He's our strongest at a 3 and a 6. So now we have to determine where we want to put them. I am going to place Herr Fenning here in this middle spot because I want him to stick around longer, because he gets extra hope when the sharks are at 4 or 5. We'll put Maya up here at the top. She's our weakest, and she only gets attacked on the 1, so. And if somebody is going to get washed out to sea, I don't like to say it, we want her to go first, but it's hard decisions to make. And then finally we got Paul McShears, and he's going to go in our last spot here on the raft. He's our strongest character, but he can also swap positions by using hope with somebody else. So if he's still super strong and somebody else is weak, we can go survival of the fittest and have them swap places with them, and they would be more likely to get washed away or attacked. So you gotta make some tough decisions, because our goal is to have at least one survivor left on this raft when we get to day 21 and get rescued. Not just make it to day 21, but get rescued. Now these numbers that we see here, this 1, 2, 4, and 3, those represent their visible strength. So whenever I have to refer to visible strength, it's the number that's showing on the top die, whether it's the second die on top like they are right now, or if they lose one of those dies, whatever is showing on the only die left would be their visible strength. And this comes into play in a lot of situations, especially with attacks by the shark or the octopus. So we'll explain that in more thorough detail as those situations come up. Next up here at the top of the board, we see this track, and this is how we determine the difficulty of the game. Easier is green, and then yellow is medium, and red is the most difficult. We're going to take our rescue boat token and place it on the spot that we want it to be. There we go. And we're going to play this as the easiest level, which is not easy, so we'll place it there on the green. And this boat will progress along the track if we manage to signal it with flares or any other means that we have at our disposal. And the goal is by day 21, we need to have it here at the anchor spot. That way, on that final card, it'll move us to the life preserver and we'll be rescued. So our goal is to not only have one survivor left on our raft, but we need to make it to here by day 21. If we don't make it there by day 21, we can make some last ditch efforts to signal it, to move it to the anchor spot, but we don't want to wait till that last day to try and survive, especially if we don't have everybody on the raft. That can be very, very difficult. Each of our survivor has one of these small placement die that they'll use. So we'll just put them next to their location so we can keep track of where everything's at during the game. And Scruffs will not use his placement die in the same way that the other survivors will, but he'll use it to roll whenever is necessary. Here are the 16 hope tokens. 13 of them are exactly the same, and then we have 3 that have this extra side to them that have these numbers, +1, -1, 2 of those, and then a +2, -2. There's 1 of those. And you can use those to manipulate the result of a die roll. But all 16 of these are going to go into the draw bag, and each survivor is going to start with 1 hope. So we give these a good mix. That is except for Scruffs. Scruffs doesn't collect hope. So we'll start up here at the left, top left, and then we'll work our way around. So the first player, which is Maya, she gets a regular hope token. Then we got Herr Fenning, who is going to get a regular token also. None of the special ones yet. And then finally we have Paul, who will get, oh, he got one of the special ones. So he has the unfocusable token. There we go. The +1, -1 hope token. He can use that to manipulate a die roll. Each survivor will also get one of these 4 flip tokens. They're the same on the back, but on the other side they have one of 4 different special powers that they can use. And I'm going to distribute these among the players, and I'll show you how we'll do that. First, we'll give these a shuffle with the common side up so I can't tell which one is which. And then we'll just distribute them amongst the players, and then we will now flip them to see which side they're going to use or have during the game. I'm going to attempt to do this without things getting too out of control. So we'll take the flip token from Scruffs first, and I'm going to flip it so it lands, and whatever side lands, that's the side that we're going to play with for Scruffs. So we'll flip, and it came up with the +4 strength, and it can be distributed randomly among the players. So that's the one Scruffs has. We'll grab Maya's, try the same thing, and hers landed on the common side, which means she can use this as a reroll token. Herr Fenning will get, he will get the swap token, which allows him to swap places with anyone on the raft, which is the same power that Paul has. So that's good. We got 2 people that have it. And finally we have Paul's, and he is going to get the 21 symbol, and I forget off the top of my head what that is, so let me look at it. This 21 symbol with the 3 hope tokens means that the survivor that has that gets 3 hope tokens on day 21, and that can be extremely helpful if you're trying to do something to get the attention of the ship. You need to use hope to do so most of the time. We'll take our first player token here to determine who's going to be our first player, and since Maya is the only female on the ship, we'll let her be the first to go. Not sure, maybe Scruffs is a female, but it doesn't specifically say in the rule book. It just refers to Scruffs as Scruff. So we'll let her be the first player. But before we get started, we'll go ahead and set up our expansion boards, because I'm going to use all the content, not only Scruffs in the solo game here, but I'm also going to use the Kite Expansion and the Weather Expansion. The Kite Expansion uses the Kite die. This token will go on the board to show that that space is active. And then there are 5 suitcases that are floating in the water that you can go after. And 3 of them have pieces of the kite. 1 is an additional hope token, and 1 is nothing. For the Kite Expansion, this token will go on the board here to show that this is a spot that can now be chosen by the survivors to go to. You can see it has 2 little hope token symbols under it. In order to go there and do it, you have to spend the 2 hope tokens. We'll place the die off to the side here for use when we need it. And then we're going to mix up these 5 suitcases, then randomly just put them in a stack together, and that will be the draw pile whenever we need to draw a suitcase to see if we find a piece of the kite, that hope token, or nothing. In order to get one of those, not only do you have to go here and spend the 2 hope tokens, but then you're going to have to swim through the jellyfish infested waters and possibly, or most likely, take damage, grab a suitcase and swim back. And you may be getting absolutely nothing in the process. But the goal is to try and collect the 3 pieces of the kite before day 21, because then you can attempt to put the kite together and fly it, which will make it much easier to signal the ship. If you have to signal the ship, if you have not reached this anchor space, the kite makes it a 3 in 6 chance of progressing forward each step with a roll of the die, as opposed to a 1 in 6 chance, which is what you have with the flare gun and some of the other items. So the kite is difficult to put together. You have to get all 3 pieces and then put it together, and that also costs you hope, but it can really be worth it if you're far away to make it easier at the end on that last day to signal the ship with the kite. The kite is voluntary. You don't have to do the kite. You can, and I usually determine that as I'm progressing along to see if it's something I'm going to need or if I'm able to move the ship along without it. But the weather expansion comes with this weather token, which has the thunderstorm side and the rainy day side, or the cloudy side. And then you also have this die that has 1 cloudy, 1 lightning storm, and then 4 spots with clear skies. Also, it comes with this board. And this is the regular side if you're only using the weather expansion. But if you're using the kite expansion, you use this side of the board. That way the kite is also included in these spaces where it is not on this one. And the way this works is if we roll the weather die, which we have to do at the beginning of each day, and it comes up either on the cloud or the lightning, we then take this token, put it on the appropriate side, and we're going to place it on the weather board in this highlighted area, and then you're going to place your thumb somewhere on the board, and then you're going to flick the token with your finger and get it to land on one of these spots. Most of them are bad. There's a few good ones. Now, if it's the lightning side, you get 1 shot, and wherever it lands, that is it. If you're on the weather side, or I'm sorry, the rainy side, you can keep your first place where it lands, or you can give it a second attempt. If you take the second attempt, then you have to take what it is. And that red dot that you see on there is on there for a reason. And that helps you determine when it lands something like this, or say it was like halfway and you didn't know which space it was on, whichever space the red dot is on, that's the square that it applies. It has the same thing on the thunder side. So if you land somewhere like that, you would tell that the red dot is over here. So this is a side, or the square that would apply. And what these squares mean is whichever one of them it lands on, that spot is blocked on the player board that day where they couldn't take actions. So if it landed here, you wouldn't be able to fish. If it landed here, no kite. Here, no hope. Or you could lose a plank on your ship. There are, like I said, just a few good spots, and they're far away, so you can take a chance for them, and they will give you an extra health for each player if you land on that. And that means you collected some rainwater. And then you also have this horrible spot that means you can't take any actions because of the severe weather that day. And you may be able to hear that in the background. That is the severe weather that is outside my house all of a sudden. It is raining very hard. So that is quite appropriate for the weather board at this time, but that's how that expansion works. And we'll keep that board off to the side and only really feature it if it is necessary during the gameplay. Everything is set up. Scruffs is in play. Our 3 survivors are also ready to go. The kite expansion is set up. The weather expansion is ready to go. On this rainy, stormy Thanksgiving day, we're ready to begin our first round with our first player, which is Maya of 21 days, to see if we can survive long enough to have somebody or a dog rescued.